Okay. So I'm not trying to cover a Remington 1911 issue, or I'm not trying to cover the Remington 1911 versus this 4506 or anything in that series in a sense. This is more about 1911 as a design. So obviously this is a Remington model, but we're not talking about that. And then, but still this represents, the older, more original concept. Of course, I know it's not in the exact situation, has a lower flared ejection port and etc. And my point of this video is to talk about that when this came out, the original version, which now let's see, that would be this model 645, and then this is a 4506-1. So the third gen was this was the next model of the 4506, and then this was the -1, the final version, was an upgraded model to that, and it is it's a larger frame, based on the same as for the 10 millimeter, but this is a 45. It's just the beefiest one, and this is made in 1991. And before they start doing cost-cutting measures, we start having MIM triggers, maybe a MIM extractor, a MIM hammer. I'm not sure if they ever put polymer guide rods in this, but then you'd have internal parts back here where they start going cheaper. Not everything made out of stainless. So in a way, once Glock came out and started dominating the police departments as far as issuing weapons, they lost a lot of business. Smith and Wesson, and eventually they discontinued. 1911s are still being made. Beretta 92s are still being made. SIG 2220s, 226 are still being made, although not to the same. 92s, believe it or not, gained popularity. But anyways, for Smith and Wesson just to let go of their first, second, third, obviously they weren't making all at the same time, but to let go of this whole concept is one of the biggest travesties in firearm history, really. Everybody would like a 1006, a 4506, 5906. I mean, ridiculous. Who wouldn't want one right now? A new one. Or even, I don't care if it was just made in aluminum, or even made in polymer for cheaper price. Just continue making them just for the mags. But that's a whole other topic. So what we're talking about here was that it was only a few short years ago, 1980s, that if you wanted a 45, you were pretty much going with a Colt 1911. And of course, this is not a Colt, but you understand the concept, what I'm trying to represent. It was a government size 45, full size, and that's what people were rocking with, and fantastic firearm, and really very, very accurate, and one of the best triggers on a combat fighting pistol ever made, and I won't argue with that. But what were issues that could be improved upon, especially we're talking about with stock 1911s? When Smith and Wesson came out with their 645, and this will represent that. Now this obviously is the 4506-1, which is in a way one generation and one improvement above, but still cosmetics changed between the 645 and this, and they did get rid of a half cock. We can get into that later. But the main difference is between these two concepts, between a government 1911 classic series, you know what I'm saying though, and the 4506 or 645, what's the differences? Well, both made of steel. Now, I'm not sure what year 1911 started coming out in stainless. I think the AMT Baller might have been the first one. Before that, you're looking at carbon steel or maybe an aluminum frame possibility before that. But Smith and Wesson in the 80s, with their second series, because the first gen didn't have a stainless steel model. The second series, which was from I think 1983 to 88, I think, and I could be wrong, that's when they started having like a 659, which later rose to 5906. That's when they started having stainless steel upper and lowers. Okay. Point is this. Both are single stacks. Okay, great. But what the 1911 represents is a true single action. This weapon, it wouldn't matter if it's around the chamber right now, is dead. It's single action only, which makes the best trigger. But the trigger has to be fully cocked. Okay, now of course, generally you're not going to load this up and then drop the hammer, softly and carry it like that. I bet you better off doing a half cock, but it's designed to be locked and cocked. So it does have a great trigger. The thing is, whenever you need this, well, obviously the range is one thing, but if you for self-defense, or which you're not talking about shit is the fan where you're using a rifle and then we're not worried about lawyers, right? Because America's collapsed. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you're minding your business and you're in a parking lot. You just went grocery shopping. And some guy tries to mug you, or I don't know, maybe he tries to P Diddy you, and you're like, what, that bro? I ain't down for that. And then you gotta defend yourself. Okay. The 1911, although amazing firearm, and amazing groupings, very tight. These are the benefits of that. I wouldn't say it's 100% downside, but, and we'll get to when I flip the weapons around, not only is the hammer to be cocked, which of course you carry this, you should know how to carry this. In that moment though, you're gonna have to make sure you take that safety off. And now you can say, well, of course that's what you do. It is something though that's non-negotiable. So two things are gonna happen. One, you're gonna have to be because obviously, if you're carrying lawfully, you can't just be a dirty Harry there and do whatever. You have to be in a life or death situation. You have to be to pull out your firearm. You can't just like, oh, well, I felt threatened because this guy said my shoes weren't tied. You get what I'm saying? There has to be. So one, you're gonna have to be in a life-threatening situation. Generally speaking, then you're gonna be your heart pumping, right? You're gonna be nervous because also you're like, oh wow, if this goes wrong, man, shit, you can do time. What if it's not? What if it's somebody just asking for the time, sir, and but he at the same time was folding his pocket knife, but he had no intention to hurt you, and you misread it, and you're like, oh fuck. Point is though, while you're in a life or death situation, in a legal situation, right? It's almost like a court battle before it happens, because you better be really sure. Okay, you better be really sure. So you got to think of all that, right? And you have to take that frame safety off. And I still would carry that. I'm just saying, but you understand this firearm. At the same time, while you're carrying this, you better make sure the safety is on, because especially if you have a Series 70, which is no firing pin safety on the inside, if you drop that, even with the safety on, that could go off unless you upgrade to a titanium firing pin and some stronger springs. So yes, 1911 has the best trigger, and it's only asking the trigger to one thing. This asks the trigger to do two things. If this was loaded, this could still be fired. Main thing is the safety off. Also, we have safety on the slide. But the good thing about that is it's out of the way. In the holster, you could still manipulate this safety, or not manipulate. It's out of the way. And then also, when charging the slide, this is the best serrations in the world, because you actually have two fat ears to grab onto. So that being said, but the difference is with double action, single action, it's ready with the hammer down. That's how you would carry it. And then after that, it becomes like a 1911 in single action and has a very good trigger. So this gives you two options, like Pert Plus, shampoo and conditioner. However, the single action on this is better than the single action on this, but it's close though. This is very good single action. The difference is though, that first shot when you need that gun though, for self-defense, you don't have to worry about the safety on this, because you're not gonna load this and carry it with the safety on. You'd have to be stupid. And this is ambidextrous. And also, you can see the red dot right there. You're gonna chamber it, decock it, and then take it back off. You're gonna carry it like this. And I've never had any kind of slide charging, slide decockers go on by accidentally while carrying. It's impossible, unless you're an idiot, and I don't know, unless you're an idiot. So the point is this, the edge of being a better trigger goes to this system. But then there's a non-negotiable factor of you have to carry with the safety on, and in that moment when you have to defend yourself and make sure in your mind, am I 100% justified? You're gonna have to make sure you take that off, right? And what if, there's other factors too. I mean, what if you're wrestling for your gun, someone just came up and attacked you out of nowhere, or pulled a knife on you, and you got things going on. In the middle of that, you gotta make sure you take that off. So I know it might not sound like a big deal, and it might not be, and it's different situations. Obviously, clearly people have defended themselves in 1911. What I'm saying is though, so like giving yourself the odds. Does that make any sense? There's a reason why police went to like Glock style firearms. You pull them out, you point, you shoot. That's it, they're ready to go. This is always ready to go too. The difference is the first pull a little longer, but still, I'd rather have this, the first pull a little longer, but I don't have to worry about taking a safety switch off, safety lever off. It's ready to go. And also, you might not have that opportunity to, You know, what if you pull out your firearm, but you get into a scuffle and the guy, whatever, there's two people, one guy grabs you, the firearm gets dropped on the ground, you go back to grip it up, but you pick it up with your offhand, but it's not ambidextrous safety, and now you see what I'm saying? There's all these stupid little things that can happen. So my point is, though, but as far as, that's the other factor, as far as a pistol, though, yes, the 1911 has very tight groupings, and really the best trigger, and I give it that 100%. Plus, it looks great, but okay, capacity really about the same, 7 and 8. You can get 8 rounders in here, or 10 rounders. You can get 10 rounders here. But back then, they were only coming back in 7 rounders. So this came out with 8. The grip is actually a little longer here to fit 8 rounds flush. And also just the mags are a little bigger. So back then, it's like the mags wouldn't be as fully compressed. Everything here was enlarged. The frame, much beefier. So it soaks up the recoil even more. Everything about this is going to be more long-term, durable, and reliable. That's the whole biggest factor too. The external extractor, no comparison. This internal extractor, though, works very well when you're changing them. On top of that, probably have to be hand fit. On top of that, all that carbon when you're shooting on the internal extractor gets blown into that channel. And every few hundred rounds, I would take that apart, and you got to know what you're doing, and clear out that channel of all the carbon and who knows, grease or lube or anything else that gets in there, lint. The external extractor, you really don't have to worry about that because it's external. This is not getting all the carbon underneath that, and you could pop it out with a pin if you want, but it's, you know, you definitely have a lot more dirt built into the internal extractor versus the external extractor. Plus, externally, you could fit a much beefier and larger one because you have more room, whereas inside the gun, you have less room to work with. So this is just a stronger, more durable design, hands down. On top of that, the feeding, there's no I don't care, there's not one 1911 by any brand. I don't care, any brand, and sky's the limit. You can save it $10,000. There's not one 1911 possible. I don't care how expensive you make the model, what materials, or hand fitting bullshit. None of them would be as reliable as or as durable as the 4506. Impossible. It's just an upgraded design. Smith and Wesson, when they made the 645, and then the 45.6 was just the next evolution of an improvement over that, even making it better. This is such a stronger design. This will feed empty cases. Forget about, I mean, there's some hollow points in this. You chamber hollow point, it'll fire, but then you take that, if you didn't fire, you take the hollow point out and it might do a little case setback, you know, where the round gets set back a little bit. Because when you're feeding 1911s, it's a tighter space and you're asking a big fat round to jump into that chamber and there's not much room, not much play. Whereas if you look into this, it's almost direct feeding. They made the slides a little bigger, the slides a little wider, the frame's a little bigger, but everything, it just operates. This is the next evolution. Granted, this has the better trigger and slightly more accurate. I say slightly, because a little better trigger. But you have to carry it with a safety on and you have to decock it. This is always ready. Everything about this is beefier. When you shoot both, it's like, this makes 45 feel like you're shooting in barely a 9mm. It's such a tank of a gun. It really is. That word gets thrown out there. It's a tank. No. No. Let's flip these around. So now you see what I'm talking about here. There's going to be your grip safety, which, once again, it better be on when you're carrying it, and then it has to be off when you need it. Obviously, this would be simulating the single action mode. You're going to carry it like that. Okay. Also, the 1911s, with the class design, you're going to have a grip safety. So that doesn't really bother me. It's an added safety where it connects with the sear. But your hand has to be on it, obviously, to fire, which is a good thing in a sense. Now, unless your hand's so weak, but if that's the case, I don't think you would operate the firearm. So it's a passive safety, which that doesn't bother me. But it's still an added part, and it's also an added, especially with blued models, and even if you have stainless steel, it's an added part that if you're in an area with a lot of moisture and salt air and everything, corrosion is something to really worry about. Whereas once they went to the 3rd gen Smith and Wesson, this ingenious idea of even having aluminum or steel pistols, right, was wraparound, which is only $20. It's not made of plastic. It's like a xenon or some crazy composite. Very durable, Obviously impervious to rust is here. You can swipe it off. The benefit is because you have a solid steel pin here that's holding the. With hammer fire guns, you're gonna have a hammer spring inside. So just popping this out, if you have to replace the hammer spring or cleaning it, and maintaining your firearm, one pin, you yank this off, it's like a clamshell, and you could get right to the guts in here. Getting to the guts of this, yeah, you can pop that out, but you better know what the fuck you're doing. Because once you pop that out, you're gonna have the fucking, that three-pronged sear. Oh, bro. If you don't know what you're doing, don't fuck with it. If you don't, and then and then taking off the safety. To fully disassemble this is possible, but when I say you really better know what you're doing, you really better know what you're doing. And then if you try to adjust it to make a better trigger pull or bending shit, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about just cleaning the gun, taking it apart here, taking this shit apart here. And I've done it before, but what I'm saying is, like, it is not, as DMX said, it is not a fucking game. Like, just either go to Gunsmith or make sure you have extra parts, and I'll leave it at that. Mag release, whatever, toss it, same thing, really. Here it has a nice undercut here, but there are 9mm that undercut, so I'm not trying to compare to the Remington model here, but we're just talking about the actual design of like a Colt 1911, and whatever. Obviously, there are more modern versions of the 1911, which have more cosmetic shit and serrations and extended triggers, when they're hollowed out and whatever, made of whatever material you want. But then the grips, okay, any pistol with grips, you're gonna have screws. Anything with screws, you're gonna have bushings underneath that. Not only things that could strip, things you're gonna scratch, things that could rust out, and moisture getting underneath your panels, whether it's made of wood, aluminum, steel, doesn't matter. This composite area, and just with this one pin, you don't have to worry about screws loosening up, okay? This was a much better idea. This was better. I prefer that. Makes sense. Although it's always nice, so nice grips, but this concept here, you don't have to worry about your screws loosening up. And of course, if you're talking about just like a range gun, is one thing. But you're talking about, when cops are carrying these third gens, all the time. This part here is gonna take a beating in the holster, and you're bumping into things, and you're back then carrying the nightsticks, and putting your stick in your duty belt and smacking things around, getting out of your vehicle. This composite thing could be $20 a piece. It's replaceable, but it's very, very more durable than just a wood grip or etc. or whatever. The main thing is the screws if you have to replace them, and then the bushings. And I've been there on 1911 where I bought a used one, and then the bushing underneath was rusted out, and then the other one was stripped, and so it was just a better design. But if you look at the lines, it really, basically, the 4506 really was a double action, single action, beefier version of the 1911. So it had single action 1911, but you don't have to worry about taking that off, okay? Because even look at the slide stop, it's very similar. A little slide stop, and this is a little more flared, and that's nicer. So yeah, do I love the 1911? Sure, but everything the 1911 does, this does it more durable, more reliable, and the difference is you don't have to worry about taking the safety off. So that's just my opinion on that. 1911 is fantastic, and I love the way it shoots. Now the grips, because if you look at it, similar, but if you look at it, with the grips, even though this is almost a little thinner, so even though you have pretty thin grips on that, these wraparound makes it very, very thin and very efficient. Okay, what else can we talk about here? We have, give me a second. Okay, the bushing. Okay, now 1911s, they have, in a way, it's a bushing, but barrel bushing, you could say in a way it's external in a sense, but obviously a piece of it goes into the slide, but a lot of it hangs outside the slide. Okay, well, one, getting beat up, dinged up, drop it. If you drop the gun and this piece here gets damaged, the whole gun's inoperable. You drop the gun and this, oh my God, the plunger? I don't know why. Anyways, plunger, right? Fucking plumber. Anyways, inoperable. This whole front end, if it gets damaged, I've had it on a 1911, brand new. Is it EA? Was it EA? No, the other one. Gerson. It was a Gerson with a factory. Oh God, I can't think. Anyways, it blew out right. It had extended from here, porting, and it just blew out at the range, the second shot. And they replaced it, but I never trusted that again. I ended up trading it back to the store. So anyways, yeah, so this is a solid stainless steel bushing, which is really strong. However, though, the 1911, you get the design, you're going to be cleaning it more and make sure it's really properly lubricated and for corrosion. But the main thing is, though, but if you drop it, this is a better design. They made it internal. To do that, though, you have to make this a cigar. Think about cigars. You're going to make the slide a little beefier, okay? Because now it's going to hold it internally. It's simpler and it's more protective, okay? This part here is external. You drop it, you bang it up. Is what it is. It makes it very tight, though. The barrel lockup's very good, but this system here is not as reliable and durable as this. Having this bushing here external, and then you have taking it apart, but who cares about that? But still, it's more complicated to take apart, okay? More chance of losing a part out in the field. But this is not as simple and reliable as this. This is a more durable design. Like I said, if you drop the gun, if anything here gets damaged, this is what locks up the whole front end, and it's external in a sense. The gun's out of luck. Right here, the bushing, and it doesn't need a plunger like that. Okay, we got everything disassembled here, and you could say it's fully disassembled, but really, no, it's disassembled to the point you would do for general maintenance, cleaning, lubrication. Of course, we could take it down more. We could take the grip off here, but in reality, once you get past that, then you can just deal with the hammer spring behind it, which is actually quite simple. I'm not talking about taking apart the guts and with the action. We're taking this part down here to work with the sear and everything else under the grip safety. I really wouldn't recommend that for most people, unless you really knew what you're doing. Now, clearly, this was an evolution of the future when this came out in the 80s, the original 645, which is the same concept, minus the 45-6, became cosmetically a little more streamlined, less high polished parts, and what they did, make it a beefier slide. Obviously this is not stainless steel, but you can't get 1911 as stainless steel, but I'm telling you it's not going to be as beefy. Here it does have 2 lugs on the barrel here. Okay, very good lockup. Right here has one that locks up into here. Okay, this was an added benefit here, the way this locks up here. The slide stop here is going to lock through the frame. Well, this is going to go through the frame. This is going to be locked up like this, and this camming action, though, is something to make sure it's lubricated, and that's something that would you have to replace it? I don't know. I mean, most people don't shoot their guns enough, but yeah, it's something added. It is a weak point where more modern guns, they got rid of that. Why? It's not only added part, added cost, but you design something that this is, now you don't have to worry about that breaking. This is very important on the barrel. I mean, so little things like that. The slide stop, very similar. Okay, but this is just beefier, not just the stainless steel, but just look at the dimensions. This is a beefier part. Not having to deal with this, where this is internal. It's in the slide. I don't know if you can see that, but whatever, the part's in the slide. This is such a overbuilt gun. So anyways, spring's pretty much about the same, though. And it's all different. It's a little longer here, but there's different. You can get aftermarket springs. Now you can, anyways, especially back then. I don't know exactly. If you're stuck with factory parts. Yeah, but as far as reliability, though, this will feed anything. It comes to design, and you look at the feed ramp. Okay. Whereas here, look at the feed ramp. This is not just using the barrel on a 1911. You're using part of the frame to help feed into the barrel. Now, with just ball ammo, you're gonna have the best reliability with the 1911. You know, it's when you come to hollow points and flat nose points, you might want to get to know the gun, and you also definitely want to use better quality magazines. You use shitty magazines in a 1911. And then even, you know, you have to get to know the gun. Each 1911 is really, you got to get to know it. Whereas the 4506, you could take it with Smith mags, any ammo you want to throw through it. Even an empty case, it will cycle. I can't stress that enough. Where on a 1911, there's no comparison reliability. There's just none. If that's your biggest factor, yeah, you know, no. So, yeah, does a 1911 look better? It's more classic, and if you, the profile of the gun, when you're looking down the slide, and the frame, it is a little thinner. It has a little more streamlined feel to it. Might even carry a little better as far as being just slightly thinner, but the durability added from the 4506 and the reliability, there's just no comparison on that. If that's your factor on durability and reliability, go with the 4506 if you can find one. Similar in length. See, I mean, so it wasn't like the 4506 or the 645 hated the 1911. It was a compliment, you know. It was basically taking it and putting on steroids, putting external extractor, very much more beefier, better ejector as well. What are you doing with ejector here? This piece here that's just pinned in there. Here you could just, it's part of the frame. It's inside of it. And you can swap that if you had to. I've never seen these pieces break. I've had multiple 3rd gen, 2nd gen guns. And fantastic. So like I said, so you see it operates from double. And it also could operate from single. Now, when the weapon is assembled, though, this does have a magazine disconnect, which some people don't like. That was of its error. You could get that removed if you'd like. To me, it doesn't bother me because I'm going to carry it with a magazine. And people say, well, what if your magazine pops out? Well, if your magazine pops out on a gun without it, too, after your first round, you're done. You know what I'm saying? No. So, if you're carrying a firearm, you're going to be, periodically, you should be tapping on the back of your magazine and making sure, I do, no matter what firearm I'm carrying, because depending on your firearm, if you're carrying, and I've had a Ruger 45, what was that single stack, but the polymer one. Nice gun though. No, I think it was actually double stack, kind of. I think it was 10 rounds. What was that Ruger? I can't think of it. It was Striker 5, the SR45. It had such a loose, ambidextrous mag release that every time I carried it, if you bumped into anything, it was such a easy and very easy to test the mag. And the gun was in a holster, but when I come home, I went to release the magazine, but it was already released. It just fell. And once I took it out of the holster and held it vertically or horizontally, if that makes any sense, the mag just fell out. I said, oh shit. So I traded that back to the store. I said, it was shot nice in the range and everything, but I couldn't get a spring for that, so I didn't feel like sending it back. So mag release is very important, where you don't want that falling out when you don't want to, like off if you need it, but also you don't want it falling out when you don't need it, because you don't need your magazine falling out when you're carrying and either at best case getting embarrassed or worst case causing a scene and losing your license because now you look unprofessional. I can't stress enough, 1911's a classic. It's irreplaceable. We owe a lot to semi-automatic, not just in 45, but just the whole concept. Beautiful gun. I love 1911s. You should know the gun though, and it's going to require a high level of maintenance and lubrication. Not that I wouldn't clean and lubricate this, and I do, but with the way this system's set up and everything's very tight, it's going to get dirtier faster when you're shooting it, and it's going to be less reliable. You have to get to know the gun and make sure you use good mags. Like, I got these Wilson Combat mags. Wilson Combat makes the best magazines. I can't stress that enough. There's just less room in this, which makes it more streamlined though, if that's your benefit. This is a beefier gun in every direction. So the room has more, the gun has more tolerance, and it's so much more reliable. It's not even, could this be the most reliable 45 made in all time? Just for shooting. I'm not talking about like, burying in the sand and, pick your pick between this and the USP, yes. The 4506, no one has ever said, you know what, this thing was jamming on me. I didn't like, now of course, if you have a magazine that's completely worn out, like this is a 4506 magazine, obviously this magazine's over 30 years old, but it's in very good condition. The spring tension's good. I could replace the internal spring for $7 and etc. So remember, magazines are part of the gun that wear out, okay? And you should take these apart frequently, and any kind of carbon or lubrication that drips down after you clean it, or dust that gets in there, or all the above, right? You know what I'm saying? Or possibly rust if you're in a humid area, or even if you're not, you might sweat, or if you're outside and it's raining or snowing and you're carrying, and then moisture gets in it, and etc. And you should look at the rounds and clean the internal parts. That's just my opinion, bro. So it's almost like a living entity, the magazine, that you're expecting. It's like it has to marry with the gun, and you want it to work in proper timing with the gun, but you could take it out of the gun, and then each magazine has completely different tolerances. Then especially we change brands of magazine, and then how different ammo works in the magazine. You got the bullet, this design, the gun itself. Nickel plating definitely helps. It makes it slicker. The spring tension, the velocity of the ammo will affect the slide velocity, right? The faster it goes, but then if you're very hot ammo, that slide, and then also then the spring. If the spring's worn out, the slide's going to cycle back too fast, and if this is worn out, it won't get the next round there in time. You need this spring to get the round up, because after you fire, okay, it's got to get the next bullet there. Well, if that slide came back too fast because the ammo's hot and this spring is worn, this has to be up and ready before the slide's ready to go forward. So it comes back. That next round has to be up and ready for the bus trip or ready for the train. You get what I'm saying, though? So you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot. So maintain your springs, keep an eye on them, replace them periodically. This is original spring, almost a 40-year-old spring. The guy didn't shoot it a lot. There was the original owner. He put 2-inch rounds, 37. I believe him because the gun was in great shape in the magazines. I mean, this is one of the original magazines. You see how that round flew out. The springs are in great condition. So it is what it is. And I can't stress enough. The 4506 does owe a lot to the 1911, and it simply took the 1911 to the next level. Some people don't like the double action, single action, but that first shot double action, also second strike capability. If a round didn't go off on 1911, the hammer drops, the round doesn't go off. Let's say you have a light primer strike, like where the primer's maybe set too far into the casing, or they're coming slightly out of battery because maybe the gun's dirty, or maybe you're wrestling with the guy, and well, who knows? And once this fires, single action only, if it doesn't go off, you either got to hand cycle it or manually cock it to work again. If you're shooting, and the gun doesn't go off, I could pull it again. Now you can say, well, you should just pull the slide and get rid of the bad round. Yes, in theory, I get that. But what if you're one-handed and you're fighting with someone, you're wrestling, and you pull the gun out and it's against the side, and you push the slide back, it's out of battery. But then you yank it back and it's in battery, and you can do it again. So this gives you not only more reliable and durability as far as functioning, it gives you an extra chance of restrikeability. Um, which why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want that second strike capability? I get it, single action only. Oh, it's the most accurate. Sure, most accurate. It is. How much more accurate though? To sacrifice other things. This is still very accurate. What are we talking about? Difference of maybe a half inch or a 1 inch group at at 10 yards. So okay, right? But you get second strike capability. Also, you don't have to worry about taking the frame safety off. The weapon is ready always, as long as the safety's off. But why? No one's gonna. I mean, you're not gonna carry it like that. You're gonna decock it and carry like this. This is look. I'm putting pressure on that. It's not just gonna go off. You gotta. I mean, I don't know how many pounds, but you really gotta push down, and you're gonna hear it. This is not. If you're carrying like this, this is not gonna just go on by itself. Impossible. Impossible. Okay. That being said, yeah. So yeah, I'm glad we talked about the differences, similarities, and then the increase in reliability and durability on this. There's no questions. The reliability, hands down. This will cycle anything. And really, unless you shot a lot of 1911, you might go, no, trust me, the 1911 is not as reliable as a Glock, as a SIG, as a Beretta, or definitely not as a 4506. And then 45, this was amazing next step evolution to the 1911. What took what the 1911 does, okay? And even look, you have full rails here, but then there's internal rails here, which doesn't have that. And then the rails here match up with the front. So if the whole slide rides in a rail, it really, the 4506 is something else. You're never going to see that again unless Smith and Wesson brings it back or somebody gets licensed to copy it. The 4506, this generation, the third gen of Smith and Wesson, was when really America was at its heyday. Smith and Wesson making their best shit. You have taken the best parts of the 1911 and then making it more reliable and more durable. Getting rid of the grip screws and the bushings, okay? Full rails, front to back. Okay, still having a lug here to make lock up to the slide better, okay? But getting rid of this camming action here, okay? Where it's more solid. You don't have to worry about that piece breaking or getting jammed up. Internally, right, you get your firing pin safeties there. A lot of similarities, but they're putting the bushing internally. You don't have to worry about taking it apart. And also, if you drop this gun or if this piece breaks, okay, your whole gun is inoperable if this little piece here shears. Now, this is stainless steel. This is a better bushing. But you see this here? It's going to lock into here. And it's under a lot of pressure from the spring and the plunger. It's doing, you have this pushing the spring back, and then this is over the spring, but trying to go this way. So it's a lot of force on this. And if that little fucking nipple, let's call it, shears, breaks, or internally here, that shears by dropping it, I'm just talking about, or the gun's inoperable. This spring, all these guts here, like Elon Musk takeoff, everything's gone. Everything's gone. Making it permanent fixture. And here was a major improvement. You still get had a benefit of the barrel locking up in the frame in the same spot every time. But you don't have to worry about this shit. Okay? You don't have to worry about that shit. I can't stress enough that was an added benefit. And then putting it back together, although I do enjoy putting 911 back together. If you don't know what you're doing, you're fucked. If you don't have good, strong hands and manipulation, or you're older, you're not going to be able to do that. And so this was much more simpler, putting it back together on top of that. Yeah, and then it has a full length stainless steel guide rod, which more modern firearms are doing that, and then more modern 1911 started doing this too. So yeah, even though I prefer this with modern guns on a 1911, this actually I prefer. In some ways, I think it makes, with this design, with the bushing system, makes it even a little easier putting it back together, and for replacement parts. On a 1911, I prefer this setup, but on other guns, I prefer a full-length guide rod. But on 1911, you know, yeah. So anyways, we're done here. I hope you enjoyed the video talking about similarities, differences, and there's a lot of similarities, but man, they took what the 1911 did and made it more durable, more reliable, stronger. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah. 1911, the original design, versus 4506, which it was 645 when it came out in the 80s. And the 645 was Smith and Wesson's first semi-automatic 45. So yeah, and that was Don Johnson and Miami Vice. It really was a nod to the 1911, nod to American great pistol, and just making it even better, even more durable, more reliable, and longer lasting. I can't stress that enough. Yeah, you don't hear a lot of people talking about their third gens, whether it's 5906 or 4506. Oh yeah, it was great, but it kept on breaking or not working. No, these things, place the springs every 5,000 rounds. Clean the gun, it's gonna operate. And then, man, they're awesome to look at. And then they shoot like a dream. But their reliability is not, I mean, oh man, I can't stress it enough. Awesome. Awesome. We're done here. Stay fresh. 1911, it will not be replaced. It's a classic. However, there is some drawbacks. That grip safety and having to carry cocked, you better really know what you're doing. You better, any gun, you should know what you're doing. But what I'm saying is, in the heat of the moment, and we're not talking about if you're carrying this on your externally in your security guard, or this is your shit is the fan, or a battle or something like that. And again, your limited capacity. But point is though, for self-defense, you're carrying probably under your shirt in the pants, and you got to clear that, and then you pull it out. You got to make sure you do that. Now I get it if you know what you're doing. Yeah, you're gonna, you know what you're doing. But most people just buy a gun. They don't shoot or practice a lot. Yeah, you might want to really get to pulling and drawing and maybe putting that frame safety, and like that. So anyways, yeah, also this has half cock. So if you wanted to, it's loaded. You can push that back, pull the trigger, let go of the trigger, and it'll stop on half cock, okay? As opposed to fully dropping around. They got rid of the half cock on the 4506. 645 had a half cock, and it didn't need it, because with this being able to be fired from double action, fully down or fully back, I have a third step then, right? Because on the 645 you used to be able to do this, and you hear it click, because now it's passing the half cock, and then if you let it go, it would stop on the half cock. With this, you got rid of the half cock. You don't need a half cock on this. You're not going to be, let me write it down. But even if you do that, it wouldn't fire the gun because of the firing pin block. If you let go, if you pull the trigger, if you let go of the trigger and then write it down, even if you dropped it, the firing pin block will not work. Because you see here, this should be under pressure. But you see that? This under pressure, and then as you pull the trigger, and see that part there is going to push up, okay, the firing pin safety. And so, but if you're decocking, although you should use a decocker, if you pull the trigger, if you hold on to the hammer, pull the trigger, let it release the sear, and let go of the trigger, even if you drop it, that would not fire, because it needs full pull to the rear. It needs full pull to the rear to disengage the firing pin safety. And this is a Series 80 on the 1911. People prefer the 70. Oh, there's no firing pin safety, but not me. Especially if you're going to carry a 1911. I like the firing pin safety. Now, if it's just a range toy and, for even more accuracy, sure. But if you're going to carry a 1911, my opinion, and you could take it to your bank. Well, not the bank literally, okay, but what I'm saying is the firing pin safety is an awesome feature to have. It protects you from the gun, some type of negligent discharge. Not that you're manipulating the hammer, but so many different. It's just literally that firing pin, no matter what, even just inertia, anything happens, that firing pin is blocked. Because here's the back of the firing pin, but look, watch, nothing happens. I'm pushing it, doesn't matter, because this here is like the balancer. You can't get into the club unless you pay the fee, and paying the fee is pushing that up. So it's a nice feature to have. All right, maybe 100 years ago nobody gave a shit, right? There was no negligent discharge 100 years ago. It was, I gave a warning shot, shot in the ceiling. Get another drink. In this day and age, yeah, you have a warning shot or a negligent discharge, poof. Especially if you're in a more crowded area, you're done. There goes your license, poof. Maybe you get hit with a charge, poof. God forbid someone gets hit, poof. You get a lawsuit, poof. You get criminal charges. And then you're talking about an accident, right? Yeah, I'll take the firing pin safety. Keep that firing pin at bay. Keep it at bay until you really need it. It's my opinion. Stay fresh. I'm done. We covered a lot of aspects of the differences and similarities. I would take the 4506 every time, though. It does everything better. If you're talking about your life on the line, yeah, I would trust. I've been shooting guns for a long time. And I've had a lot of 45s and a lot of 1911s. I love the 1911. I love it. The 45.6 defeated the 1911 in every category. If we're talking about all steel single stack guns, there's just no comparison. It's just, there's no comparison. There's just none. More cost, higher maintenance, changing out parts more frequently, easier for parts to break, less reliable with certain magazines. Everything on the 1911 is better. I mean, on the 4506 is better. Everything minus that little slightly more tighter groupings. You're still gonna get very tight groupings with this, but the gun's always gonna be ready to fire as long as that safety's off, and that safety will never set itself. Once you chamber and decock and pick the safety off, it's just a better gun. Stay fresh. One last thing, you see how that round, the way it's designed, it's literally direct feeding. So even if the round dipped in the magazine, it has such a feed ramp, but it almost doesn't even need the feed ramp. The way it's designed, the way the magazine was designed, it was just a better design. Let's look at the 1911. And this is, remember, very good Wilson combat mags, but you look at that, and it's really not direct feed at all, the way designed. So yeah, the gun's more streamlined, and yeah, the frame's a little smaller, and yeah, the slide's a little shorter, but look at that design. It has to use the feed ramp of the frame to bounce that bullet into that chamber. And remember, these are the best Wilson combat mags. If you're using shitty mags with really shitty springs and shitty followers, and then the round dips, and on top of that you throw in a hollow point, that's especially flat nose in some way, oof, you can make this into a gym-o-matic. So keep the gun clean, lubricated, hire cleaning periodically, and use the best mags, and get to know the gun though. But still, on its best day, it wouldn't be as reliable as this gun on its worst day. It's just everything about it. Larger extractor, larger ejection port larger, feed ramp, and not just all that, the design, it took it to the next level. Okay, I just can't stress it enough. Just looking at that, you can tell, I'm saying, what a better design that is for reliability, especially with more modern ammo, but even with any ammo. And then you figure if the gun's dirty or anything else, this is much more forgiving. Yeah, that whole feeding area is set up to receive. No diddy.